Hi everybody and welcome to the flute practice. Today we are going to be looking at some of the trickiest notes to play on the flute. I'm going to kind of grade these from kind of beginner levels all the way through to kind of really professional level, the notes that we all will and have struggled with at some point. If this is your first time here at the flute practice, I'm going to encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button below and the grey notification button so that you get notified when my new videos come out. Alright, let's dive straight in with the first really tricky notes, and these notes are particularly difficult for beginners. The high B and C in the second register. So this might sound a bit strange to some of you. You think, oh, but what about the higher notes? What about D and E and those higher notes up there? The truth is, I find that the B and the C in the second register are much more difficult to get with the embouchure, to get a good sound on, to not crack down to the low register. The higher register fingerings kind of already sort themselves out because they have special fingerings, and it's not so taxing for the embouchure to get those notes. But that B and the C, for some reason, is kind of the most exposed notes that we have. They're the most open notes that we have, and as a result many beginners really struggle with these notes. There's not much I can give you by way of kind of quick fixes here. The basic things apply: making sure that your embouchure is changing the position, moving that airstream up, making sure that the airflow is really nice in the support, that you're really increasing the support and the airflow nicely, and of course checking that you are keeping this nice and open, the throat, making sure you're not getting tight with the embouchure. All these things are going to hurt you rather than help you. I have done a whole video on high notes and how to get the high notes, so I'm going to guide you guys to that one. Go check it out if you're struggling with these two notes. The next notes I would say are kind of, well, I think they're notes that everybody struggles with no matter where you are. Low C. Yes, no discussion on flute tricky notes is complete without mentioning the bottom register C. This is really a notoriously difficult note. It's usually too soft, it's usually a bit fluffy, if you even can get it to speak at all. Once again, I don't really have any quick fixes. I've done a whole video on low notes that I'm going to guide you to. I've recently done a nice little video on a nice little exercise that'll help you get those low notes more easily. So I'm going to guide you to that video as well. It's a great little video for you to just check out and work on that low register, because that's really what it is. You want to work on these things and not just kind of fix them overnight. It's a twofold problem, because on the one hand it's in the low register, which quite frankly, to put it mildly, just sucks on the flute. But there's another problem, and that is kind of a finger problem, where it's sometimes difficult to kind of get down there and reach there. I have a very nice little exercise to help your fingers, also to help those low notes. And that is, we're going to play E flat, then we're going to play D, then we're going to play C sharp, then we're going to play D again, then we're going to play C natural, and we're going to play D again. Then we're going to go back to the C sharp, to the D, E flat, D, and we carry on moving like this. So basically you're tapping these three keys and every time lifting so that you'll get the D in between. So I'm going to let you see this, what's going on with my hand down there. Start off slowly, increase that speed slowly, and eventually you get quite nice and agile, and this really just helps that baby finger learn to move independently at the same time working on those low notes. Two other really nasty notes that we all struggle with are the high register F sharp and G sharp. These are horribly, horribly, horribly resistant notes. They are really not nice. They tend to kind of sound kind of shrill and thin and screechy if we don't work on them. And the truth is, with many of these difficult notes, we avoid them because they're not fun, they're not nice. So we just stay clear of them. But I can honestly say, hands down, every single one of these tricky notes on the flute, you need to sit with them and spend time with them and grapple with them and really kind of press in and push into them to work with them rather than avoid them. Avoiding them, it's just going to mean that when you actually have to play it in a piece or a lesson or an exam or a concert, you're going to be in trouble. So, high register F sharp, there are a couple of things that are really important. Good support, really good support. Another really important one is to keep everything as open as possible. The temptation is going to be to want to kind of bite down and force out the sound. What you need to do is you need to think nice and open, opening in the throat, space between the jaws. That's a really great little tip we got from Catherine Kemmler recently, of just keep feeling the space between the back teeth is a good one. You can think of that nice yawning feeling is a really great one. Some people speak about kind of a hot potato in the back of the mouth, but staying nice and open is really essential with these guys. And then really your embouchure, you don't want to be tight. You want to make sure that you're in the right position, bringing it forward. And really, I don't want to just think about kind of blowing harder, but you are going to really need a little bit of vuma in this register. You're going to need to really go for it. So if everything's nice and open and free, we are really going to put some weight into it. And there you have it. Vibrato in this high register is really going to help. Adding some beautiful vibrato will increase the quality of those notes. But bad sound is never going to be fixed with vibrato. It's just not. You need to have a basic good sound first. There are, of course, alternate fingerings in this high register. We could use the middle finger instead of the ring finger for the high F sharp. It makes it less resistant and a little bit flatter. So it's a great tip. And we can use for the high G sharp these two fingers. So you put them down, also makes that note a little bit less resistant and easier. I'm going to caution against using these alternative fingerings all the time for two important reasons. The first reason is, which we find in the high F sharp, it is a bit flatter than the other notes. So if you're playing a scale going up there, your F sharp is going to be a lot flatter than all of the other high notes, which are already all a lot sharper. So you rather want to use consistently sharp notes and work on the embouchure to bring that pitch down. The other big problem that we have is, which we find with the G sharp fingering, the alternate fingering, is it's very kind of complex and complicated. And it's a little bit more tricky to kind of get these fingerings at really fast speeds in that high register. So they are very useful, especially if you have like a standalone note or you're starting a phrase on that high G sharp or high F sharp and it needs to be in tune and it needs to, speak first time. These things are really, really useful, but don't practice them in as the kind of normal fingering. There are reasons we have the fingerings we have. All right, the last problem child I'm going to be speaking about today is your mid-register E. Horrible note. And I'd say this is a kind of an advanced level thing because, you're playing at a reasonably good level by this stage. You're making a good sound on the instrument. You're playing possibly quite advanced level pieces. And that E just wants to crack all the time. It is so frustrating. So here are my best tips for this note. The first thing is you need to realize that the E we need to back off. We cannot push too hard on the E. We cannot force this note. We kind of have to take a step back and just back off him a little bit. He's happiest when you kind of leave him alone a little bit. That doesn't mean don't practice him. That's not what it means. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about don't try too much airspeed. Don't try to kind of clamp down and bite with the lips too hard. You are going to crack that note. A nice little alternate fingering that Catherine Kemmler suggests is going for the E flat and the C sharp key at the same time. It gives you a little bit more stability on that note so that you can kind of go for it a little bit better. But of course we cannot always use this fingering. It's quite impractical and a bit clumsy. So it's not always the answer. The other really nice little thing, a way that she mentions thinking about this note, is to think of the B, the high B embouchure position when you play the E. But without all the air. So you're not going to use the same air that you use for that high B necessarily, but thinking of that position, I find that very, very, very helpful for getting that E and finding the right position for that E. So give that a try and see if that helps. The only other tips that I have for all of these notes is practice, guys. Yep, patience, a whole truckload of it, and a lot of practicing in these areas. Targeted, specific practice. Don't just kind of play through those notes and then be like, oh, I'll get back to them tomorrow. Work with specific exercises, technical exercises, and possibly with your teacher. Work with your teacher on these problems. If you would like help in any of these areas, you don't have a teacher, I do offer online lessons. I'm going to put a link for that below, and you can go and check out what online lessons with me are all about. Until then, everybody, happy practicing, happy flute playing, and see you next time.